All right, Odeani McBean, welcome to the pod. Appreciate you coming on, man.
Appreciate you for having me, man, for sure.
We got connected through my sister, actually, which is a cool way that we got connected. And so I've been following you for a while now, and you've had some big changes in your life recently, which we'll dive into. But I want to start out with the Jamaican flag in your bio.
Yeah.
Are you from there, born there? What is just the significance of that?
Yeah, so I was born in Jamaica. I moved to America like 9 years old or so. So around third grade is when I moved from Jamaica to America, actually. So, us Jamaicans, you could leave Jamaica at 1 years old and you still got a rep, like, you know what I mean? So it's like enrooted in us. So yeah, so I've been in America since I was about 9.
Do you remember that transition? What was that like?
Yeah, I remember the transition because a lot of it was actually filled with like a lot of bullying. Like, you know what I mean? Because when I came to America, um I had a very strong accent. So I actually remember I was like fighting like almost every other day because, I'm gonna protect myself, you know what I mean? Not just gonna beat me up, but it was still like sad as hell. And I remember a funny story. I used to be in my mom's bedroom in the mirror and I used to be practicing my slang. Like I used to be like, I remember being like, what's up, yo? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I used to be like talking like the people in school were talking in the mirror, so I didn't get made fun of. So yeah, but other than that aspect of it, it was a good transition because I'm a sociable guy. So I was able to meet some friends and but it was tough. It was tough at first, but it kind of became my norm.
And was it your whole family that moved here?
So um my dad came to America first, and then I was living with my mom and some other family. And then at some point, my mom came to America, and then I was like living with some other family in Jamaica. And then I came to America, and then shortly after, my mom ended up coming, and we kind of all being at one. I have a little sister as well, so she came up when she was about 1 years old. So didn't take long for us all to kind of be back together as a family. But initially, he started off as my dad, and then he kind of like did the process to get us all here.
Mm. And what'd your dad do? What did he come here for?
You know how it is, man. Like you just better opportunity, land
Yeah.
of the free. Like you know what I mean. So my dad, like hate to say this, but like typical Jamaican dad, like worked like 5 different jobs, like you know what I mean. Like hate to stereotype him like that, but that was his experience. And so he came to kind of make a better life for his kids and his family. And so he did like a lot of jobs. He's worked in construction. He was a janitor at one point. He used to like wait tables and wash dishes in a restaurant. Whatever, he could do, especially with his hands. That's what he was doing.
Yeah, man. I respect the hell out of that. I've been in a few Ubers recently, and they've been immigrants and similar stories of, and these have been like first generation immigrants that just came to
Hmm.
the US 10 years ago or so, and it's just like that willingness to do whatever they need to do to
Yeah.
to make it work and support their family and support themselves. And like it is a easy way to just think about the difference in uh opportunities,
Right. Yeah. It's a real good way to shift perspectives for sure. Even I go through that when I'm in an Uber actually. You know what I mean? And like I'll talk to somebody and I could tell they're not from here, and sometimes I'm like, damn, like, like at times I may have thought I had it bad or something like that, or I don't have as much opportunity, and then you kind of like hear their story, and you like it also helps to relate to them too. So that I think me being from another country helps me in that regard where I can resonate and I'm very relatable in like a bunch of different rooms in life. You know what I mean? But for sure.
Yeah. Then did having that just childhood, like what was your, I don't know, dreams? What did you think you're going to be when you grew up?
Man, it's a great question. So I thought for sure I would a couple different things. Um, the first thing for sure I thought I was going to be was a boxer initially because my dad is a boxer.
Mm.
So, like I used to I got some memories like having a towel over my head like it was a hood, the hood they come out in and I
Mm.
used to like so I used to think I was going to be a boxer. Then once I came to America, I kind of let the social norms kind of wrap me up, meaning like, I used to play soccer a lot. I came to America, I was in, very urban environment, and my friends are like, man, black people don't play soccer. You know what I'm saying? Out there, like, man, you play baseball, man. We play basketball and football, like, you know what I mean? And at the time, you're so young, you don't. You're very fortunate if you're young to think independently. And at that time, I didn't really think independently. I just kind of did what they did. So, but there's some positive to that because it led me to sports like basketball and football, and I really excelled at those in high school. You know what I mean? And so, um, track and field. So these are all sports that I excelled at. So I thought I was going to be like an athlete. Like you couldn't tell me no different. I'm like, bro, I'm going to the league. Like, you know what I mean? Like my friends
Oh
used to
yeah.
call me like Lil Garnett. They thought I was like I had a game like Kevin Garnett. Thought I was going to the league. And then probably around seventh grade, I really took on rapping. So,
Mm.
yeah, very interesting fact about me, that like a lot of people are shocked to hear, but I have like 30 mixtapes. I have albums, like, so I really thought I was going to be like professional signed rapper. I used to live in the studio. And then my son was born in 2011, and that kind of like completely like changed how, because I thought I was going to be the guy that was like, you know what, I got a kid on the way, like my son is here now, I got to go extra hard in the booth, like, you know what I mean, like I gotta like write 5 songs a day. And I realized that's how it was pre-birth, but then I realized like I would much rather like spend time with him and like not miss out on that time. So that's him being born slowly transitioned me out of pursuing that career because I just spending the time with him was like more crucial to me. So I think I put my last album out, I don't know, 2019 or something, probably 2020. So because and even putting that out was really slow process. You know what I mean? So now I think about music every day, though. I'll be honest with you. When people say, like, what's that one thing? Like, there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about, like, man, I want to get back in the studio and, you know what I mean? So I think when I have some time, I'm going to just do it for myself. You know what I mean? Because I'm a writer. So it's kind of like how I express myself. That's why blogging comes very easy to me when I write these blogs, because that's what I do. I express myself via words.
Do you still write songs to this day at all?
I haven't written a song in about a year, if I'm being honest. But it's like riding a bike, man. Like, and I was super confident too. Like I felt like I was like the best. You know what I'm saying? So like once you feel like that, it's like riding a bike. So if I hear the beat and I open up the page, I'm sure something good will come out of it.
Yeah. Who do you compare yourself to?
Man, another good question. So when when you're at when you're an artist and you have this false sense of identity, you start to think like much bigger than what you really are. So when people asked me that question in the past, I didn't really have an answer because I was like, I'm me. Like, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, but then once you start realizing like who influences you, like, you know what I mean? And so a lot of people used to tell me I sound like, I don't know if you're familiar with Wale.
Oh
They
yeah.
used to be like, yeah, a lot of people used to say I sound like Wale. Some people used to say I sound like this guy named Lupe Fiasco. And I also get a lot of Drake comparisons, not for like the singing aspect, but just for how I kind of sequence the bars. So a lot of people will give me Drake a lot of the times, which is fine because these are all people who I actually like listen
Hmm.
to a lot. So it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I love those guys. Wale used to be like
Yeah,
my freshman, sophomore year of college, like main guy I listened to. I was
yeah,
hot. It was 2012, 2013. So like kind of at his come up and
hmm
always a classic. And then yeah, Lupe Fiasco, Kick Push, always a classic. Just
yeah,
smooth lyricist. That's what I
yeah.
appreciate about.
hmm Yeah,
Um,
my
rap.
early days of rapping was far different than my later days though, because my early days, early childhood, like, I was like in the streets and stuff and all my friends, and we were just like the influence was just like not good. So like I was super aggressive, like, you know what I mean? Like, don't mess with me. But and like I feel like it was probably like mid college, after graduating college, is when my content just became a lot more just like realistic as to like what I'm going through, what inspires me, um, what I hope to achieve, and that's a much better way to make music, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Than
Yeah.
just like constantly rapping about the downfalls of being where you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Creating that vision for a better future,
Yeah,
giving hope.
yeah, right.
Then was going to college a big deal for you?
It was. It was a big deal for me, primarily because no one else in my family had done it at the time. Like, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So it was a big deal. It was something I always wanted to do. Um, Once I got there, it was even crazier because that was my first time realizing, like, yo, I could. It's gonna sound so bad. I could miss class and my mom won't know. Like that was nuts for me. Like you know what I'm saying? Like I remember, like I missed a couple of days of class, and I'm like, they don't call your mom. This is crazy. So that independence was cool, but I really met some of my best friends there. Like I like that's the biggest thing I took from college is the friendships. Um, looking at it today, I don't think it's necessary to achieve your goals and everything like that. But I could never feeling like that though won't stop me from acknowledging the good that came from me being in school. You know what I mean? So yeah, college was I went to Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland. So that was a good experience for me, HBCU, and I feel like I had a really good experience, like, so yeah.
Yeah, people always give college bad rap nowadays, and like I said, and I agree that like if you're I don't know going into business or whatever, it's much better just to get a job in that business and kind of learn it,
hmm
through osmosis and doing rather than theory.
yeah.
But to that point, I think the real benefit of college is like growing up, being out on
I
your
was just
own,
about to say, growing up. hmm
being out on your own, being responsible for yourself. And it's kind of in like this little bit of a bubble that like you're allowed to be an idiot still and not have too big of consequences.
hmm
But it allows you to kind of start down that path of, just taking care of yourself on a daily basis, which, obviously for most people at 18 is something brand new.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you something real quick, that I think also college taught me. So when I was younger, before college, like I got in some trouble, and like I got back on my feet and everything. And at the time, when you're going through that at that age, you have so many people around you coddling you, right? So you have like your parents, you have family members that are like there to help you throughout your struggles. Then once you go to college, especially I went to school like 3 hours away from my home. So things I went through in college, I had to kind of bounce back with really no help per se. You know what I mean? Like that safety, that comfort of home. And it was in college that I didn't even realize it's in college. I realized it post college, but I realized looking back at my college years that that's where like a lot of my resiliency. like, that's when I realized, like, dang, I'm a resilient dude. You know what I mean? Like, we went through this in college. I went through this in college. I did this, and I ended up graduating with honors, but I also almost got kicked out off the campus. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, once you like look back at those years, I'm like, damn, like I'm super resilient. And whatever I was going through pre-college, I just wasn't alone going through it. So I couldn't really like put my finger on it. But you know, once you're kind of like by yourself and you're able to like repeatedly bounce back, then you can kind of point the finger like, yo, I'm a resilient dude. And college did that for me. Like, I was like, wow, looking back at it, like, man, I don't know how I did that. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think that helped me.
Yeah, no, it's a great point that allows you to build confidence in yourself, because at that point, like, you are the one making every decision. You're the one who has to live up to whatever expectation that you set for yourself, and if you don't, you have to own up to those consequences and
Mm-hmm.
figure out the solution to whatever problem you have. And just putting yourself in that position, and it's something I, just with, I just traveled again for the past or not past 8 months, but last year was traveling for 8 months down in South America, and it was very much just like a similar thing. It's like I'm out by myself on a different continent,
Uh-huh.
and like I gotta make every decision, solve all my problems. Like, it makes you, to your word, resilient, and allows you to be able to say like, hey, like, if I can get through whatever I'm getting through at this moment, I can probably get through whatever I'm getting through or going through in a future moment.
Right. Yeah. I like that about you too, man. I know that you've done some solo travels. That's awesome. That's like on my bucket list to do. You know what I mean? Is to get away for a couple. I can't go months at a time, clearly, because Papa. But I definitely want to like take a couple weeks to myself somewhere where I don't even know what the street sign means. Like,
Yeah.
I like, you know what I mean? I really appreciate people who do that. So that's awesome, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Um, then speaking of just kind of transitioning into Papa mode,
Yeah.
that is what you're doing now. But how did this idea first come up, of wanting to build this brand around helping fathers be better fathers?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So this is how the idea came up. I've always been into entrepreneurship and trying to, while I've always, I had like a full-time job and everything, but I've always started clothing lines. Even when, if you think back to when I told you about being a rapper, like, like I always just wanted to be creative. And so couple years ago, for like 2-3 years in a row, I was working on some dating apps. Right.
Mm,
One was a dating app for single people who have a passion for sports, and then that transitioned into working on an app for couples who are in relationships, helping them like date better or whatever, while they're together. So I was working on that, and I'm talking about like fully in the trenches with that, like qualitative, quantitative surveys, logos. I'm having focus groups with people, like asking them questions, and I was like listening to this podcast, and the guest was basically like, she was like, so this guest on this podcast was actually a guest in like a mindset mentor group I was in. And she was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, yeah, I'm working on this app. It's a relationship app. It's called whatever it was called. And I was like, this is what I'm doing. And she was like, like that's a good idea, right? And I was like, oh, what do you mean? And you know what I mean? And she's just like, it's a good idea. And so, and then she kind of like, she wasn't talking to me directly, but I feel like she was. She was giving general information to the room, and she's just like, you should work on something that like speaks to you, that like really like, you know, speaks to who you are. And then she was like, this is the best way to make an impact with business. Think about what you went through as an adult and what's the biggest struggle as an adult that you've been through? And she was like, that's what you should build a business around, because I'm pretty sure like hundreds of thousands of people are going through the same thing. Bro, like I promise you. She said that. It was like everything I've done for the last 2 years didn't even matter. You know what I mean? I got off that call, I meditated, and I was like, damn, I got to do this whole new thing. I was like, I need to help dads, especially co-parenting dads, but dads in general. I need to help them find community. I need to help them, realize that just because you're raising a child in a different home, it doesn't mean you're a bad dad, right? I need to help dads who feel like, damn, I feel underappreciated. I feel like what I'm doing doesn't really get spoken about. And that's who I need to help, because that's the biggest pain point of my adult life, right? I always say fatherhood has been the most joyous and rewarding experience for me, but it's also been like the most isolated experience for me, and the most feeling of like loneliness. Right, I went to a 3-year custody battle, spent over $80,000 on lawyer fees. Yeah, while making 58,000. So you figure that part out, right? So I went through that, just financial hardships, dating. You got a kid. It's like people don't even want to date you because you got a kid before they even meet your kid, or you know what I mean? Because there's just so many stigmas that come with that. And I realized like, also like I'm trying to achieve so many things outside of fatherhood. So it's like, but it's so hard to do that when your identity is tied to this role and you're going through so much chaos within that role. So that one statement she said turned my mind. I'm like, yeah, I need to really, really like help people who are going through what I've gone through, and how I've like quote unquote achieved quote unquote successes while going through that. And that's how 365 Dad came to be, man. Like it just started as a journal, to help dads with reflection and mindfulness and stuff like that. And then it just like went from there into everything else.
Dang, that might be the best business advice I've ever heard.
Man,
What is the one thing that you've struggled with most in your adult life? Make a business around it.
I mean, I don't, like I know you from social media, and we've kind of had some conversations outside, but from what I hear about you and the things you say, I could tell that self-development journey was something you really struggled with. You know what I mean? That, trying to make sure you're not trying to please the outside all the time, trying to make sure, especially I hear a lot about your journey with like weight and feeling good about your body, and so you turned that into what you're doing now, right?
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? Like, and you kind of, yeah. So it was same thing. It was like, damn, that light bulb went off. You know what I mean? I'm like, how did I do all of this stuff? And it was through. This is where the self reflection comes in. You know what I mean? It was like I picked up a journal, I picked up meditation, and that's what kept me grounded. And that's kind of what keeps me able to manage all the stuff that I'm going through.
When did you pick those up, and why did you feel the call to start those at the time you
Yeah.
did?
So so custody battle for me was everything. That's what really like, because that was like the worst moments of my life. Like, you know what I mean? Just like feeling alone, financial, and then it's like you don't even know what's going to happen as far as your schedule with your kids. Like, you know what I mean? So that was tough. And I would say that ended for me in 2020. But it started around 2017. So around 2017, 2018 is when I was just like in the dumps. And most people who I know who meditate and who journal, they pick it up when you're like in the dumps. And I am that guy. Like, I'm like the perfect stereotype. Like, I mean, I was like in the dumps emotionally, mentally. And I was like, man, what can I do? And I basically picked up journaling from YouTube, like this helps you, and then I've always remembered that writing my music also helps me out a lot. So I was like, this makes sense. But this was way more intentional, so picked up journaling that way. I started meditating right after. Um, and yeah, my meditation, we'll talk about this deeper, I'm sure, but that process has grown tremendously from when I first started. Now I think about it completely different. But yeah, so I would say those two things around 2018. And the reason for it was just because I just was like down and out. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, I didn't even want to like, it was times where I didn't even want to like clean my room, like, like real like depression type stuff. And I'm like, how can I gotta overcome. And so those two things definitely I would say is the reason why I'm even talking to you right now.
Yeah, it's a story that so many people can relate to, and myself included, of just what, kind of turns into one of the best things that's ever happened to you is it comes out of, a darkness, a dark
Mm,
place, a dark moment in our lives. And it's just like, well, what do I have to lose, kind of. And it's just like, I might as well try this out, see if it helps. And that
yeah.
was kind of my story with meditation. Similarly, it was middle of, or beginning of 2020, right when COVID happened. And I was just in a moment of, I have no idea what I want to do in my life, who I was at that moment. It was just like, I've heard meditation's good, so I'm going to commit to it. It was like, I think I did like the Calm app, 10 minutes a day for 90
Mm-hmm.
days. And that's what I like committed to. I did every day for 90 days. And that led to everything else that has happened in my life. And I'd love to hear about that progression of meditation with you, and just what it has given you, particularly that has been so beneficial. But for me, I think it's just, as men, we never give ourselves space to just sit and kind of reflect, while also just feel. I'm very much always in my head, thinking about everything going on. So to escape that for, again, even if it's just 10 minutes a day, is such a super powerful practice to start to feel
Mm-hmm.
what it is that we usually try and, again, stuff down as men, that we need to be seen as tough and have it all together and not
Mm-hmm.
have any issues, and that we can solve all of our problems. And so just to allow those feelings of worry, frustration, fear kind of get in there and just sit with it for a little bit is extremely beneficial, again, for my personal experience. So I'd love to hear your journey as well.
Yeah, that's so true. Um, I think my meditation journey started, I think, like a lot of people, especially on this side of the world. It's like you meditate because you heard it was going to make you calm, and you heard that it was going to do all of these things for you. So I also started on like the Calm app and apps like that. And the first thing I would say is it started off really simple, 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day, and really like kumbaya-ish, like, you know what I mean? And it was good because meditation is like the gym, where it's like, you don't go to the gym for a minute and then you start going back, and maybe take you like 3 months, then you look in the mirror, you're like, oh shit, like, mom, the pecs are coming in, like the shoulder, because you don't,
Hell yeah.
but you don't even see it, you know what I mean? And out of nowhere, it hits you. So I think meditation is good in that way, where it's like you might meditate for 5 days straight, and on the sixth day, you might yell at somebody. It doesn't mean that it's not working. You know what I mean? And so it started off that way for me, and then it got like, it took like a deep turn. And this is the type of stuff that I want to share with, you know, my clients in the dad community that it may not be familiar with meditation. Is like, we could start off with the basic level of concentration and sitting, and that's awesome, right? But the deeper turn for me is when meditation made me realize that, like, we are all like one. You know what I mean? It made me realize, like, why would I treat Nick this way if I really feel like Nick is an extension of me? You know what I mean? And I think that was like the biggest thing for me. And it's still the biggest thing for me right now, is because I'm able to be like way more compassionate because of this practice. And you know, it's like, for example, like when I sit and I meditate, a lot of the thoughts I have, which we all know this, like, you identify with them. You know what I mean? And when I first started meditating, that wasn't a thing in my mind. It was like, okay, I'm thinking, I'll go back to my breathing. But then you realize, like, no, you're actually identifying with these thoughts. And so you're calling yourself these words. You're saying you're depressed because you're identifying with this emotion. And meditation really made me like stop doing that. First of all, I hate to say, like, I we none of us have anything figured out, right? But it helped me better manage that. You know what I mean? So like in real life situations, it has helped me realize, like, nope, this is just something that I'm seeing, just like the bookshelf. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is literally just a thing that's here and it's about to be gone in like 10 seconds. So I'm not going to latch on to that. And that's what meditation has helped me with more profoundly. And it just helps you manage adversity a lot better. You know what I'm saying? Because imagine trying to solve a problem from here, looking at the problem rather than thinking like you are the problem and like you're like in the tornado of the problem. That's the biggest thing meditation has done for me. Like I now, for the most part, try to solve problems that I'm going through in life from a bird's eye view rather than being like identified with it. And yeah, that just sounded crazy probably to some people, but you know what I mean? But I promise you that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? It's like I'm just really able to realize, like, nope, not about to identify with that. Nope. Oh, this happened with one of my children's moms, and we're both like in disagreement about this thing. And what am I going to do? Am I going to just like yell? This person's going to yell. We're going to say mean things, right? Prior to that, that's what was happening. Now it's kind of like, haha, I understand this. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh yeah.
this person's trying their hardest. I'm trying my hardest. So let's take a back seat and look at it as just a bunch of words and a bunch of things that are just like being thrown into the air, because that's really all it is. And once I was able to look at it that way, things really shifted for me internally and externally. So yeah, that's a long example. That was a super long explanation. My bad, bro. But that's what meditation has done for me.
No, I love it. That's what a podcast is for. Long rambles. That's the best part of them. But it reminds me of just the Einstein quote. You can't solve your problems from the same level of consciousness that you created them with. And it's
Right.
just so true. It's just like, if you knew how to solve the problem, if you were in the mindset to solve the problem, then you wouldn't have the problem in the first place, or you'd be able to solve it right now. So in order to solve it, you need to think a different way. You need to elevate your consciousness to a different level where you can take that step back and see it from a bird's eye view and say, like, okay, this is just a moment in time. I'm going through this. What can I do to potentially resolve it? Or do I just need to give it time? Because sometimes there are no quote unquote resolutions per se, more other than just time. And so having that clarity to say that I don't need to just bury myself in this problem nonstop until I figure it out, when in reality, like, that is doing more harm than good. When you think like, oh, I'm just putting a lot of attention and effort and focus into solving this problem, I'm thinking about it all the time, you get caught up in the weeds and you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So you're just kind of spinning in circles rather than going anywhere that is productive.
Yeah. No, that's great. And also, like, another thing to piggyback off of that is like, this is something else I tell people, like, there's no promise that once you build this habit that you're going to solve everything that way, right? Because that's the beauty of the human experience, right? But what is important is that, like, especially, I keep bringing it back to, like, parenting, but like premeditation, pre-journaling, if I was in a, let's say, disagreement, right? Or even, like, let's say me and my kid or something, we're in a disagreement, or me and my children's mom are in a disagreement on something. Premeditation is like, we're arguing. This is what it is, right? That's what's happening. That's what's happening. Now, a lot of the times, I'm able to see things how they actually are. What's actually happening is two people care so much about this child that they are really, like, going to war with their thoughts because they both feel that these thoughts are what's better for the child. That is what's happening. So that is seeing something as it truly is. If I was not able to see things as they truly are, I would see them as, this person doesn't like me, or, like, this person thinks I'm this way. I don't like this person. It's like, actually, what's happening is this. This is what is actually happening. And I think that's also how my meditation has helped me too. It's just, like, really made me realize, like, see things for what they truly are. You know what I mean? And sometimes you get it right there. Like, I've been, like, sometimes you, like, in the trenches of adversity and you're able to spot it because of the practice. Sometimes you succumb to the human experience and, like, a couple days later you're able to realize it. But that's still better than not ever. You know what I mean? That's still better than, like, latching on to something forever because you're not able to truly see how it really is,
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you approach, again, those relationships with your kids' moms who maybe not have the same view of you as you, and maybe not have the same mindset that you have, and so just to balance kind of where you're coming at it from, and, like, taking that bird's eye view, but then also, on a practical level of getting things done and having as good of a relationship as you can. I don't know what your relationship is like with
Mm-hmm.
with um with them, but just kind of how do you think about it on a day-to-day basis, and not maybe even beyond just co-parenting, but just people in general on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. So the the thing is, super cliche thing to say, but you have to kind of expect the best out of everyone, right? So you have to kind of, like, go into it with, like, stop assuming ill intentions, right? And then once you stop assuming ill intentions, then you're kind of able to be more willing to communicate, because this is all what this is about. And so one of the pillars in the journal is called the relationships, and it's like gives you prompts about how to, like, strengthen these relationships. It could be, with your child, it could be with your co-parent, or, for the purposes of the book, those are the two biggest things, but it could be with anybody else. And you first have to kind of just, like, stop assuming the worst in somebody. So once you stop assuming the worst, then you're like, everything is so much easier. It's so much easier to, like, have a conversation. It's so much easier to listen to what someone has to say. It's so much easier to say, hey, like, you want to just, like, grab a bite and we can kind of, like, discuss how we're approaching this. And this is going to sound very, like, simple, but I'm gonna give you an example. Me and my son's mom used to, like, text about everything, right? Like, and it'd be things that are, like, very important, and we would, like, send text messages and signals get crossed. At some point, maybe like a year and a half ago, I'm like, you know what? if this is super important, I'm going to voice note you. Like, it sounds super simple, but it's a game changer, because now you're able to like hear my tone. I'm able to like express to you that, hey, um, I'm just letting you know this because of this, but it's just a way more intentional way to communicate. We have the technology, we might as well make use of it, right? So even something like that, it's like, I know in a text message, the words are the words, right? Someone can just assume, because they think they know who you are, they can assume your tone. They can think they know what you mean. And so I think like literally like the last year and a half, I'm like, you know what? If this is going to be something that I think is like crucial, I'm gonna voice note it, because I want you to hear my intention. I want you to hear my tone. I want you to know, how I feel about this. So that's kind of like an example. And other than that, I would just say I just don't assume ill intentions. Like, I'm not perfect. I'm sure I do sometimes, but most of the times I don't, and that's helped me for sure.
Yeah, that's a great tip, because so much can get lost in translation in a text when you're just reading things. People can put their own meaning behind things that aren't really there. That's a fantastic,
Yeah.
fantastic tip for just clear communication with anybody in your life.
Anybody. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Then the idea of not assuming ill intent, it reminds me of, have you ever read The Four Agreements?
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic
Yep.
book, and the first book that I read in like the self-help category that actually like made sense to me and like connected. Right after the
Mm-hmm.
meditation, I read that book, and like, or like during meditation, I read that book, and that's really what set me on my path. And one of the four agreements is don't take things personally,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that is just the wisest agreement of them all, which is just how many times do we get upset in our lives because whatever reason somebody does something that, and it's like, oh, they did that to me, or like just assuming that is because of us that they did whatever they did, and not
Mm-hmm.
because of whatever they have going on in their lives, or that they didn't actually mean it in the way that we're assuming that they meant it. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you could change like one thing about just how you approach life in general, is stop taking things personally. And I don't know if I was ever like terrible at this. I was, guilty as anybody, but that is one thing, like, again, over these past 4 years of my self-development journey, is just a constant reminder of that, of just,
Yeah.
it's not me, it's not necessarily them, it just is. And so just respond in a way that is appropriate for that situation.
Yeah. It just is. And also, like, something I think I talked about this earlier is, you really gotta have the mindset that everyone's trying to figure it out. Because usually that's what's happening. You know what I mean? Like, some people, based off of past experiences, based off of what they've yet to learn, in their effort to figure it out, they get it quote unquote wrong. They do different things that society will look at and say that's not the way to handle that. You know what I mean? So not taking these things personal also goes right in hand with, like, this person's just trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? And so yeah, I love that book. That was like one of my first books too when I got on this journey, this self-development journey, which is a whole other aspect.
Yeah. But actually, now that we're on books, I did see that you're an Alan Watts fan as well.
Yeah, of
And
course.
so gotta talk Alan Watts anytime I meet a fellow Alan Watts fan.
Yeah.
Um, anything in particular stand out about him that has really resonated with you?
Yeah, man. So Alan Watts is someone who has a very good way of explaining deep, like, Eastern philosophies, and kind of like makes you see them how you're living day to day in America. And I thought that was impactful. Um, you know, So many Alan Watts gems. I would say one of the biggest things that Alan Watts has said, or I've listened to, that I see it day to day and it helps me, is he basically says you're not separate from like the environment. You know what I'm saying? You're like just like the apple tree is appling. You know what I'm saying? Like the universe peoples. And he's like, you're not separate. And then he's like, you can't explain anything that you do without explaining what the environment is doing. And it's just like so true. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm literally wearing this hoodie right now because it was cold outside. So like we're like it's like a dance, like, you know what I mean? And like, so I promise you, since he said that and I started thinking like that, I'll walk outside and I see like trash on the floor that I didn't do, I pick it up. Because I'm like, these people clearly don't understand that they're one with the environment. And if they did, they wouldn't do that. Like, you know what I'm saying? And
Oh
like
yeah.
that's awesome. Like I'm like sometimes like I'm at the park and I know people are like, what is this man doing? Like I don't work there, but I'm like picking up Gatorade bottles. And I'm because it's just like, like I really look at it that way. I really look at it like if the environment is, me, or we need each other so much, why would I like purposely shit on it? So I would say that is one of the biggest things, but I mean, so many other things, like especially this spiritual stuff, which could be a little risky. So I was, but yeah, that, and he also has this thing where he says like work is play. You know what I mean? And that helps me out a lot too because I'm like, yeah, like if I'm gonna like wash a ton of dishes, like let me just like make this a game. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because who loves to do that? Nobody. But work is play. So it's almost like what I'm doing now. It's like I wake up. This is what I have to do today. Am I gonna like sulk about it, or am I gonna be like, let's see how far I can get in this video game of work, this video game of life? You know what I mean? So work is play really helped me out. But I would say those two things are my biggest gems.
Yeah, those are great. And that first point you made was a huge takeaway for me. I started listening to him probably about a year ago now, and I would recommend anybody who's listening to this to listen to him before you read him, because reading can be a little tough still starting out.
Yeah, that's a great point because I have like 4 or 5 Alan Watts books, and listening to his videos, it definitely made them easier for me. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Because a lot of times it's things that you've heard already in the videos, and you kind of, it's like, it's just something about speaking, you know what I mean? Where you feel like you got a better grasp of it. So now when I read the book, I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think that's a
to your
great
point
recommendation.
earlier of the voice notes, similar thing of just like you're able to hear the context and how he, is inflecting his voice at certain different points, and just adds more to what he is saying than just the words alone.
Yeah.
And so definitely recommend to listen to him, and I could listen to him for hours. The one I love of his is just the idea of, I don't know if you've heard his speech. I think it's called The Joker. And it's just around the idea of work is play. And he's saying that, back in, medieval times, there's a king and whatnot, but like the most important person in the uh kingdom was the Joker. He was the person that was in charge of making sure nobody took life too seriously. He was in charge of kind of keeping everybody in check. If he couldn't make fun of something or someone, then they had too much power or were taking things too much or too seriously. And so to, just think of your own life as, being a joker, of just having fun, enjoying it. Like, again, not taking things too seriously. Another thing he says is take things sincerely, not seriously, which is a
Mhm.
great delineation that I think he makes. And just, again, just like seriously is, again, just like this rugged, stubborn, uh no fun, just kind of way of going about life. Where sincerely is I care and I am very,
Yeah,
thoughtful, but like at the same time, it's light and it's more enjoyable.
yeah, bro. After this, I'm sure I'm gonna be like, damn, there's this other Alan Watts thing. Like, it's just so many. You know what I mean? I'm sure I'm missing some stuff, but yeah, that's Alan Watts, and there's another guy who really kicked off my like spiritual personal development journey. Michael Singer.
Mm,
So he wrote a book called The Untethered Soul, and that book like completely like changed my perspective on everything. So
yeah,
that
it's a
book was like,
great one.
you've read that book?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
listen to it, but
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, that man, that book. It's like at a time like I was going through some stuff, and I'm like, damn, like the book made me realize like you're not mad at like you're just mad because you weren't able to like do it how you thought it should have been done, but you're not actually mad at the situation. You know what I mean? Because if you look at the
mm,
situation, you probably realize like, damn, there's a lot of benefits here. You know what I mean? But you're just mad at like that you couldn't control the outcome, or you know, I mean, that's what you're really mad at. You're not mad at what's happening, and that made me really perspective shift on a lot of things that I was going through at the time. So yeah,
yeah, it's a good one. Surrender Experiment. I don't know if you've
come
read
on,
or
man. Of
yeah,
course.
yeah, so good.
I'm gonna be honest with you because we're talking. We're
Yeah,
about to go
let's let it
now.
rip.
So the surrender experiment, actually, I give that credit to one of the biggest, most adversity things. So I was engaged at one point in my life, my young life, and this is like didn't work out. And at the time, I had bought like a really expensive ring for this individual, and when we broke up, she like kept the ring. And everybody in my life is like asking that one question. Did you get the ring back? Like, what? Get the ring back. That's you get the and I read that book, and he was just talking about like, yo, just like whatever comes, just surrender it. Like, you know what I'm saying? And whatever's happening, and that book made me be like, you know what? I'm surrendering that. You know what I'm saying? Like I haven't reached out and like, hey, like, can I, what's up? Can I get this ring back? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because I've surrendered it. You know what I mean? It's like, uh, whatever monetary thing that ring cost me, I'll get it back twofold. Whether it be through experiences, whether it be through currency, I'll get it back. And just by surrendering it. And it has like helped me tremendously. Um, Sometimes like life is happening and you're like, man, I got all of these things planned, but these curveballs just here now. It's like, yeah, I'm just gonna surrender to the curveballs. This is what's supposed to happen today. Okay. I didn't plan it this way, but plans are for fools anyway, right? So it's like, let me just go ahead and just tap into whatever curveball is happening, and we'll see what happens from there. So yeah, that book is great.
Yeah, we can make all the plans in the world, but then life has its own plan for itself and goes
Yeah,
completely opposite of what we were thinking.
yeah, man. Something I heard recently, which was great, maybe like a year ago now, but plans are just intentions. Like I heard someone say that,
Mm,
like they're just intentions, and they're just like thoughts. They're just like present moment thoughts. You know what I'm saying? Like that's all a plan is, because it's clearly whatever you're planning for isn't here yet, and you can't like bend the future and force it to happen how we want it to happen. So all a plan is a present moment thought, and when you look at it that way, it just helps you not like be so attached to like the plans. You still want things that we still have, but like you're just not as and that was me. You know what I'm saying? Like if I had my day planned on my time block, and I had this plan, and if something didn't go according, and like I was like, damn, everything is a waste now. And it's like, no, actually that's not the case. You know what I mean? Now I just like because I heard that, now when I do my schedule for the day the night before, like today I had like for today I had 229. I don't have to-dos. I have 229 intentions. And that's how I really look at them. Like, these are my intentions for the day. We'll see what happens. I'm going to try my hardest to get them done, you know what I'm saying? But they're literally intentions because 229 isn't even freaking here yet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I love that framing of intentions. How do you balance that willingness to kind of grit your teeth a little longer and like force something, not necessarily force, but like not give up on something, to saying like, oh, well, I got thrown this curveball, so might as well just completely throw it out the window. If you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Just like in general?
Yeah, just in general of like,
Yeah.
how do you find the
So,
time to, or determine when it's time to actually not necessarily give up, but
like
just maybe
surrender.
surrender. Yeah, I guess is the right word.
Yeah. So, for me, what I tend to do is whenever something pops up out of nowhere, or you know what I mean, I tend to go back to two things. I'm like, damn, like what benefit could come from this? Right? And then if there's any positive that can come from it, then I'm all for it. B, and this is very recent, maybe the last 6 to 8 months of my life that I've started doing this. I start like looking at like, what do I value? You know what I mean? And I'll give you a good example, but like, so this is a good example. So sometimes like I'll wake up and I'll be like, okay, this is what I got going on today. Like I want to make sure I do X, Y, Z. And then maybe like a family member will need me, right? Or maybe an opportunity to connect with someone will present itself. And I'm like, damn, I was supposed to do XYZ, but now this is happening. Does it align with my values? And one of my values are like being reliable, being, it's connecting. And sometimes I'm just like, yeah, actually, you know what? I'd rather go with my mom to go look at my grandma and talk with her and see how she's doing and help her with her groceries and whatever the case may be. I'd rather surrender to that because I value that. You know what I mean? I value family. I value connecting. So I would say two things I do is I just try to see, is there any benefit that can come from it? Any benefit. Doesn't have to be like huge. Is there any benefit? And the second thing I do now is I kind of see, does it align with my values? And if it does, then I'll surrender for sure.
I think that's one of the most important things that people can do, if they don't already have them, is write down your core values, like what it is that you actually stand for, and like that is important in your life. Um, Something that I think very few people actually do or take some time to sit down and think about. I know I didn't until maybe 3 years ago now.
Mhm.
And that's changed everything about my life and just kind of how I approach everything in general, really. To
Yeah.
your exact point, and then also with just like setting goals, it's no longer like quantitative goals of I want to make X amount of money. It's I want to be a good person and live these values. I want to be family oriented, and I want to have integrity, and like as long as I live by those values, the rest will play itself out. But that is
Mhm.
something that you can always aspire to. You can always live by your values. You can't necessarily always hit these quantitative goals of money is an easy one, weight loss is an easy one, but whatever your goals are, a lot of that stuff is kind of outside of your control. What you can control is what you do, your process, and just by and living by those values. And again, as long as you do that, things tend to work themselves out.
Yeah, and if you didn't get the outcome you expected, at least you were like genuine. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like that matters too. And I think with values, what's important also is, and this is like one of the like best things I've ever heard when I was sitting down and writing out my values. It's like, okay, write your values down. What do you value? So like, you write down these things, and then it's like, majority of the time, if you compare your values to what you're actually doing, it's almost like you're lying to yourself. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, I don't think you value, commitment, because you always dipping out on relationships when it gets tough. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. So like, I wrote down my values, and I was like, damn, like, I know in my heart of hearts, like, this is these things I value, but there are some things I have on this list that my day-to-day experience is not that. Right. So it's like, you got to like look at yourself in the mirror, like, all right, like, what is it? And if that's what it really is, then now how can you talk about your goals, like, how can we like intentionally set standards that will have us align with these values? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I'm working for myself now, and I have to think about how my day is going to be, right? Like, now, like, I determine that. And you can like get completely wrapped up in what you see online, that people tell you how to like build your day, and this is the best time to work. And like, I've been through the rabbit hole, you know what I'm saying? And it really wasn't until like I sat down and I was like, all right, like, I'm making fucking brain smoothies, and I don't even like how these taste. Right? So, you know what I'm saying? It's like, what's going on here? So it's like, what do I actually care about? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what are things that I actually care about? Probably made a list of like 7, 8 things, and that's how I structure my day. Like, around those things that Odeani cares about. You know what I mean? Like, and it all ties back to the values. Like, I have in there like connecting. So it's like, I'm gonna make sure that I put hours, like, I'll make sure I set my work schedule up where I still have time to get on FaceTime with my friends. I still have time to get on the Xbox and play COD for an hour or so with them, because that's important to me, because that's connecting, right? But I've already also made time to go take a walk outside, because I like being outside. I like nature. I like being active. I went to the gym already. I journaled already. Like, these are things that I'm doing because I actually enjoy them. And I wrote those down, and that's how I create my daily rituals now. It's like, it's super intentional. You know what I mean? And these, ironically, all come back to the values. You know what I mean? And so it's great, man. I think writing down the values are awesome. I've tried them in the past, maybe like 3 years ago, and was terrible at it, because I was putting stuff down that wasn't aligning with my actions. You know what I mean? But once I started being intentional about my actions, and it all started working out, man, for sure.
Yeah, that first look in the mirror is always a tough one. That's for damn sure.
Very much needed though, man. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
essential. You can't get where you want to go unless you have just full brutal self-transparency with yourself,
Mm-hmm.
in all aspects. But even to that point you made of just like making smoothies that you don't even like, or like, doing these 2-hour morning routines that like you don't even enjoy doing or don't provide benefit or like whatever, like maybe you just be better
Yeah.
off waking up and doing the work that you need to do, rather than this crazy routine.
And you know what's crazy about the morning? I'm glad because we talked about this, because this is like another thing in the personal development world that's nuts. And I'm gonna be honest. I was the guy who, like, when I was working a full-time job, I would have to leave my house like 8 o'clock, and like, so I would wake up like 5 o'clock, and I'm like, boom, 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 put like butter in my coffee, whatever that does, right? And I'm like, boom, gym, and then it's like, I'm like rushing out of my house to get in the car to go to work. But guess what? I checked off all my stuff, and it was like, that shit was terrible, because I checked them off, but I did it like not seamlessly. And these days, ironically, like, my morning, routine or ritual, whatever you want to call it, it's like, it's pretty long. It's like, it probably takes like 2, 3 hours. But the difference is, like, I'm doing it very seamlessly. You know, like I'm doing it on all, like I'm not rushing to the next thing. And if I were to, for people listening who they got to be to work at a certain time, right? Maybe they got stuff happening, and so maybe they can't do it as seamless. That's where you just pick the most important things. You prioritize, and I wasn't doing that. So I was trying to do 8 things, and unfortunately, maybe I do think all of these things are important, but like you got to prioritize. So like once I was like on my last back end of working, like I start prioritizing these things, and I was like, well, based on the values, it looks like the winner out of all 8 of these things is these 3 things right here. And once I did that, it was just like a lot easier for me to like roll out of bed and have like a short morning routine and not feel like I'm like in 100-meter dash race to get to work. You know what I mean? So it's about prioritizing. A lot of the time, you just got to prioritize all the things you want to do. Something has to be more important than the other. Like that's another thing. Like we hate to think that, but it has to be. It just has to be. You got to prioritize, and yeah, that helped me for sure with my morning routine. Is like prioritizing um, who I want to be, and now it's just like a piece of cake for me.
Yeah, it's an idea I've been like kind of just playing around with, is the idea of just like optimizing. Is that I think everybody thinks of optimizing wrong, where like to that point of people online are talking about these crazy 10 lists or 10 step checklists of doing, taking 20 different supplements, doing all these different hacks, blah, blah, blah. But like at the end of the day, like that's not optimizing. That's neurotic. That is like putting more stress and just extra bullshit in your life that doesn't need to be there. Like if it's, especially if it's not providing any real benefit for you. So like what real optimizing is to your point of like finding those 3 to 4 things that you actually care about that actually move the needle forward, and just hammering those over and over and over again until you get to that goal that you want to do. And just like to that point, like the root word of optimize is optimus, which just means best. And so again,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't mean neurotic, it means best. It's how can I create my best day? And so my best day is doing, these 3 things in the morning, going to work, doing these 2 things at night, and then that's it. Like that's okay. Like if that's your best day, great. That's what we should be aiming
Right.
for.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. And we also like I was like looking at people doing like 15 things, not realizing like, man, this dude got an assistant. This dude got, you know what I'm saying? This dude got a cameraman. As soon as you wake up, the camera on him already, ironically. Like, it's like, this is not the life I'm living. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I got kids. And the mornings that I don't have my kids, like, I'm still not living the life that this person is living. Like, you know what I'm saying? I got a whole different set of worries. Like, so it's like, you got to really just be like, all right, like, hold on, take the paper out and just be like, what fits my life? What do I value? And just write them down. And that will change your whole perspective. Like, like even like this conversation, like somebody could hear this conversation and be like, all right, like Odeani says that he does this, Nick says he does that. And they can try it and they might not like it. Right. And you know, there's value in learning what other people do, because we're all more similar than we're all alike. So we all go through the same things. So, but like, if I'm telling you this is how I solve this problem, try it out. But if it doesn't work, awesome. Something else will. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't like latch. And that was my thing. I was like, I spoke about this in a reel one time, or a story, where like I was like doing morning pages because like everyone in the world said write 3 pages. Scientifically, this is proven. Write 3 pages. And I'm like, bro, like this shit sucks for me. For me, like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I just, this is not pleasant for me. And I'm like, what does work for me is, and then I came up with my own journaling routine. But I wouldn't have known to try that if it wasn't, playing around with other things. So it's value, but you really just got to do what works best for you.
Yeah, it's a game of trial and error. Unfortunately, it's going to take a lot of times of doing things that you think are going to work, doesn't work, starting over, but each time you're able to just filter down and gain a little more clarity on what it is that it is best for you. And to your
Yeah.
point of just like, nobody can tell you what that best is. You can do the exact same thing that, whoever you're trying to compare yourself to, or whoever you want to be like, millionaire, entrepreneur, whatever. And like, you can do the exact same thing that they do in the exact same manner, but you will not get the same result. And just, that's not how life works. So you got to figure out what it is that works best for you.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
How has the jump into full-time entrepreneurship been? How was that just mindset wise as well? I know for myself was a big jump.
Yeah, man. So once again, this is where you kind of have to like sit with yourself, because so many people will have so many different opinions about it, you know? And if you let that like get the best of you, it may sway you, right? So when I made this choice, so many people were like, you tripping. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, nah, do it on the side, or like, you know what I'm saying? And also I'm not the guy that's like, you should quit your job. Like, nah, like if you feel like you're working somewhere that brings you like fulfillment, and you know you have the time and the resources needed to pursue something that you want to pursue that also brings you fulfillment, like go for it until you really feel safe. Um but for me, I didn't feel like that. For me, I felt like this is what I needed to do. And so once I just kind of like put my attention on the people that were like, go for it. Like, you, like, I believe in you. Like, bro, like, I think you could do anything. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, once I put my attention on that, my confidence just grew day by day, day by day. I think right now the biggest thing is to just pick, and I heard this before and I was like, we'll see what happens when I get in that position. But it's true. The biggest thing is to like work on the right things. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like I can go to bed with like 10 different things I need to do tomorrow, but absolutely will not be able to do these 10 things. Like, that's just the reality of life. First, accept that. But then the important part is like, out of these 10 things, what is most important? You know what I mean? And that, to me, that's where I am right now, is like, I'm doing all the things. I'm doing the Instagram. I'm reaching out to potential clients. I'm working with the freelancer to do the this and the that. But it's like, yo, out of all of these things, what would make the biggest impact? You know, like what's important? And that's the stage I'm in, figuring that part out. But it's been a roller coaster, but it's great. Like I don't regret so far. Haven't regretted one day. A little lonely, but that's also just based off of my current life situation. Doing it like without like a partner or something like that is probably like a lot more stressful, I would say. You
For
know what I
sure.
mean? But I'm figuring it out, man. I love it.
I love it, man. Glad to hear. And I have nothing but respect for anybody who does it, who's willing to take a bet on themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and just say, I'm going for it. And just throwing that just kind of ultimate trust into the universe and saying, hey, like, I'm here, I'm presenting myself, I'm willing to do what I need.
Mm-hmm.
And just trusting that it'll work out in the end. So I
Yeah.
wish you nothing but the best of luck, man. And I know that you're going to crush it, just from the little that I've talked to you previously, and also in this conversation here.
Yeah. Appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Big things ahead for you for sure. My final question for people is, what is your why? Why do you do what you do?
Mm. Mm. Like I felt like I knew this question was coming, right? And so man, I would say, can I give you like two?
Yeah,
You
please.
sure? Okay. So, because there's like the why that I really mean, but it's really cliche, but I really mean it. And then there's the kind of like deeper why. So the why that is cliche, but I really mean it, is like, I really want to like I really want to help. I want to be like impactful. Like, and not just like working with the dads, but I also want my son to see me working hard. I want my daughter to see me working hard. Like, I want my family to be proud of me. You know what I mean? Like, I really want to positively impact as many people as I can, especially the ones that are close to me. And I want to do that by them seeing me impacting others. You know what I mean? So I would say that that's the cliche why that I really actually mean is I want to make like profound impact. Like there was this like Tupac line he used to say in one of his songs. He was like, basically like, I'm not saying that I'm gonna be like the brain that's gonna spark the world. Like I'm not, but then he's like, I'm gonna spark the brain that will change the world. Something like that. He's like, I'm not saying I'm gonna change the world, but like I bet you, like something I say or whatever is gonna help. And that's really who I like to be, that person. Like I find great value. Like I love when somebody is better able to understand something based off of my way of explaining it. That's just like I've been a trainer my whole life in corporate world, and that's just what I love to do. I love to help. I love to make people's situations better. So that's like the cliche thing. But the deeper why is like, man, I really just want to like keep finding out what life is. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I really want to like wake up and be like, if I did these things, if I helped this person, but somehow I still feel sad, why the hell is that? Like, or if I help these people and I feel amazing, why is that? You know what I mean? Like, that's really my why is like, I just want to figure, like, I just want to know everything about life consciously. I want to know, why do we think we know it all when we really don't, like, you know what I mean? And I say that to say experiences. Like I just want to have all the experiences that I can possibly have so I can kind of like put them all in the experience basket and be like, damn, this is why people react this way when this happens. Damn, this is why you perceive something to be what it really wasn't. You know what I mean? I just want to figure out like life and I want to live it day by day. So I would say that's like the deeper why, if that makes any sense.
I love it, man. I love it. So if people are inspired by this conversation and want to reach out to you or purchase the journal whenever it comes out here shortly in the next couple weeks, where can they best connect with you?
Yeah, www.365dad.com, and that's THREESXFIVEDAD.com. And my Instagram, and also 365dad on Instagram, spelled out the same way. I'm on Instagram at _Odeani. And I think my Instagram right now is the best place to reach me because that's where I'm most active. That's where I'm giving out daily gems. That's where I'm, speaking about what I'm going through in life on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, but the journal is going to be out soon. I'm very happy about that. I also offer one-on-one coaching services. So I'm very happy about that as well. And yeah, man, I just want to work with people who understand that they don't have it all figured out. And that's okay. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, and that's my mission.
I'll have all that listed in the show notes below so people can easily find you. But Odeani, I really appreciate you coming on today, man. This was a great conversation. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, man. I'm forever grateful. Thank you.